You know, every single day, you're just bombarded with claims about AI, how it's going to transform your business, disrupt your entire industry, make your competitors look like they're standing still. But here's the real question. How many of those claims can you actually bet your budget, your strategy, and, frankly, your career on? Today, we are going to break down a new way of communicating that's designed to cut right through the hype and build a real layer of trust for making big decisions.
So, first things first, let's just get our heads around the sheer scale of this challenge. By 2026, and that's not far away, it's projected that 90% of all online content will be AI-generated. That's not just a wave of information, it's a full-blown tsunami, and it's heading right for every leader who's trying to make sense of things.
But is more content actually leading to more clarity? Well, the data says, not really. In fact, a recent study found that only a tiny fraction, just 15% of B2B decision makers think the quality of the thought leadership they're reading is excellent. The rest, it's pretty much just adding to the noise.
And here's the direct, kind of brutal cost of that quality gap. Research from MIT shows a staggering 95% of generative AI pilots are failing to deliver any meaningful impact. Now that is not a coincidence. There is a straight line from low-quality information to very expensive, failed projects.
So this puts every leader in a really tough spot. The amount of information about AI is just exploding, but the quality of the signal, the reliable insight you need to make smart bets, is plummeting. Finding that signal in all the noise, that's now a core strategic challenge for everyone.
This whole dynamic has created what we can basically call the AI information crisis. It's a crisis that's fueled by uncalibrated confidence, where everyone sounds certain, but the evidence is quiet. And believe me, it has very real, very tangible costs for businesses that get it wrong.
Here's what that gap looks like in action. On the left, you've got what most AI briefings sound like. These big, vague claims like AI will transform everything. I mean, it sounds important, but it's totally useless for making a decision. What leaders actually need is on the right, a set of specific, evidence-backed questions. Which tasks, by when, and hey, what's the proof? This gap kicks off three pretty predictable failure modes. It starts with what's called confidence inflation, where weak signals are talked about like they're hard facts. That leads to decision contamination, because one bad assumption can infect your entire strategy. And the end result? Trust erosion. Your teams get cynical and just stop believing in any new initiative.
So let's be perfectly clear about this. That 95% pilot failure rate, that isn't the fault of the technology. These are failures in decision-making, plain and simple. They're driven by really compelling stories that are unfortunately built on a foundation of weak or sometimes non-existent evidence.
Okay, so how do we fix this? The answer isn't to slow down or stop innovating. No way. The answer is to inject a layer of discipline. The solution is a framework called Evidence-Labeled Briefings, and it's a simple but really powerful control for making smarter, faster decisions in the age of AI.
The real power of this whole approach is in its structured honesty. It's a standard where every major claim you make gets tagged. What's the quality of the source? What's your real confidence level? And, crucially, what are the things you're not sure about? It's all about replacing that vague confidence with calibrated clarity.
And it breaks down into 4 really simple steps. 1, just state your claim clearly. 2, tag the quality of your evidence. Is it strong, moderate, or weak? 3, give it a confidence score. And 4, add a quick but critical note about what you don't know or what could make this claim totally wrong. Let's make this super concrete. A typical claim you might hear is, the agentic AI market is exploding. Now, agentic AI basically means systems that can chase goals on their own. It's a huge deal, but that claim is way too vague to act on. The labeled version, though, that's a strategic tool. The claim is more specific, the evidence is rated moderate, confidence is medium, and the uncertainty note points out that the very definition of agentic is still being debated. Now you can have a real conversation about risk and opportunity.
Right about now, you might be thinking, okay, this sounds like a lot of extra work. Is it really worth it? The answer is simple. In an economy that is flooded with hype, being demonstrably credible becomes your most valuable commercial asset. So let's talk about the payoff.
The data here makes an absolutely airtight case. 73% of B2B buyers say that an organization's thought leadership is a more trustworthy way to judge its skills than its own marketing materials. When you provide rigorous, evidence-based insights, you are building trust. And at the end of the day, trust is what people buy. And that trust, it's not just some feel-good metric. It has a direct, measurable impact on the bottom line. Credibility gets you on the shortlist. Consideration leads directly to closed deals. This kind of discipline draws a straight line from intellectual honesty right to revenue.
And the operational benefits inside your own company are just as powerful. Your teams get aligned faster because everyone's working from the same calibrated map of reality. You start allocating resources way more effectively, steering clear of those 95% of failed pilots. You lower the risk to your brand's reputation, and your entire organization just executes better and with more confidence.
So the case is pretty clear, but the million-dollar question remains, how do you actually implement this? How do you go from this powerful idea to a practical, working model inside your organization?
All right, let's walk through a simple but really effective model for putting this into practice. This can become your new competitive edge, allowing your team to systematically and defensively separate the signal from all that noise.
The model is called the two-lane briefing system. And just think of it like a highway. Lane A, that's your fast lane. It's for your decision-grade signals, claims backed by strong or moderate evidence. This is the stuff you can confidently act on now. Lane B, that's for horizon scanning, the weak, early signals. You monitor them, you discuss them, but you do not commit major resources to them.
The entire purpose of this system is to give your organization a formal way to treat frontier curiosity differently from a strategic imperative. That simple act of separation is what stops you from overreacting to every new headline and chasing trends that, honestly, lead nowhere. And remember the prize for getting this right. Getting into that top 15% for quality thought leadership has a massive commercial impact. The data shows it can lead to 86% of decision makers inviting you to bid on a project, 60% being willing to pay a premium for what you do, and 23% becoming a customer outright. That is the power of being the most trusted voice in the room.
Of course, the most common objection is, won't admitting we're uncertain make us sound less confident? But the reality is the exact opposite. In a world that is saturated with hype, explicitly stating what you don't know is a power move. It signals credibility, it signals maturity, and it shows that you are in complete control of your narrative.
So let's just bring it all back to the numbers that define this challenge. 90% AI-generated content is coming. Only 15% of current insights are rated as excellent, and all of that is leading to a 95% failure rate for AI pilots. The gap between that huge volume and that tiny slice of quality, that is precisely where strategic capital, time, and talent are being wasted.
We'll leave you with this final thought. When every single competitor is shouting about how their AI is going to change the world, confidence has become a cheap commodity. The ultimate differentiator, the one thing that earns you the trust of your customers and your own teams, is not how loudly you can make a claim, but how clearly you can show your work.